Hey everybody, it's Scott from Hunt Tested, and today we are going to be mounting a scope to my Marlin 1895GS. And for safety, we're just going to confirm that this gun is unloaded. So you can see the chamber is open, and it is an unloaded firearm. Put it back in the rest here. And so this particular gun, I'm setting up to use to deer hunt in Iowa. They recently made a change to the law that you can use straight-walled rifle cartridges in shotgun zones. And the 4570 is a great round, and it's ballistically, I believe, a little bit superior to what my 12 gauge slug gun would be. So I think this would be an advantage for me as I'm hunting in a rifle zone. On this gun, we're going to be mounting this Leupold scope. This is a 1.5 to 5 power VX3 scope. We're going to be using Leupold's quick release rings. The reason I'm using these is I want to have the option to take this scope off of this gun and be able to use it just with the iron sights. And then another thing that I put on all my Leupold scopes are these alumina covers. I like these because if you're hunting in the snow or rain, you can have your scope glass protected, and we'll talk about how these work and install. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the screws that are on the receiver of this gun, and I'm using a Grace gunsmith screwdriver. Highly recommend that whenever you're doing any of your own basic gunsmithing, use a screwdriver that's designed for it. The grind on these is designed for the type of screws that you're going to have on your gun. So we're just going to take the screws that are in the receiver out right now. Okay. So the next step is we're going to be installing this Weaver base, and this is a EGW Weaver base that's designed for this particular gun. It's going to go on like so. So when we're putting this base on, I always like to use a little bit of the blue Loctite so I can remove them, but it's going to snug them up and they're not going to come off until I want them to. And so we're going to grab the screws for this. Now so whenever you're working with a scope, you want to torque both the base and the rings to the inch-pound settings that are specified by the manufacturer. So this is a Wheeler inch-pound screwdriver, so I can set this to the appropriate setting. So for the base, we're going to set this to 30 inch-pounds. I don't know if you can see on here, but that's the marking that tells me it's at 30 inch-pounds. And as I'm tightening these screws, I'm just snugging them up at this point. I'm getting them all kind of snugged where I want them. And then we're going to torque them to the appropriate setting. I don't know if you can hear this breaking over, but that's telling me when it breaks that we are at 30 pounds of torque. All right, our base is on. All right, so next we're going to be installing the rings. Okay, so this is a quick release ring by Leupold. I like these because you can take them off, and when you reinstall, your gun will return to zero, supposedly. So I'm just going to set these in place right now. And we're going to see where that lines up with my scope. that one all the way forward and just see where that gets us. Okay, and now we need to take the top of the rings off. And there are 4 screws on each one of these. Okay. So the top of the rings are off now. We're going to set our scope in place. See what that looks like for placement. I'm just going to put this back one on and cinch it down a little bit so my scope doesn't fall off. And see what this looks like. Okay. I feel like that is pretty good for the eye relief. So I think that ring placement is going to work pretty well. So we're going to go ahead and take this off. And the next thing we're going to do is see what our alignment looks like. And I think we are in pretty good shape from an alignment standpoint. Next thing we're going to do is we're just going to lap these rings. And I've found that the Leupold rings do not need a whole lot. We're just going to get these pretty smooth in place. Okay, and then we're just going to loosen this up enough, just enough that I can slide the lapping tool. Okay, I've got a little lapping compound on this already, and we can see this is a Wheeler 220 grit lapping compound, and the idea here is to just make everything nice and smooth. Now we've got our rings lapped, and now we're ready to install the scope. Get that lapping compound cleaned up, and now we're going to install our Leupold scope. And you want to be really careful when you're putting these screws in to make sure you're not cross-threading them at all. So take your time on this part, because if you would happen to cross-thread one of your screws, that would be a problem. And with the ring screws that are holding the scope in place, I am not using any Loctite on these, just on the base. So these do have a little bit of oil on them, and they are going to cinch up just fine. Okay, now my next step is to just get these so I can just tight enough that I can still move the scope, because we want to set the appropriate eye relief on this scope right now. Okay, and to do that, I'm going to take it out of my gun vise and I'm just going to throw it up. So now that we have the appropriate eye relief set, now we want to make sure that our crosshairs are level. And to do that, I'm going to make sure, I'm going to use this little bubble level. And the first thing I want to do is make sure the gun is level. And we look pretty good right there. Okay, I think we are pretty good, but I am going to check this one more time. Okay, let's take this out of the vise, and that looks great. Okay, now at this point we have set our scope up, we have the appropriate eye relief, so when I throw it up I see the full field of view, and we've made sure that our crosshairs are level to the gun. Now all we have to do is tighten up the rings. Okay, so to tighten the rings, these are a steel ring by Leupold, And according to the specifications, steel rings can be tightened to 15 to 20 inch-pounds of pressure. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten them with this Torx head wrench the Leupold provided, and I'm just going to snug them up. We're just going to get them just snug. And similar to like if you are torquing a lug nuts on a tire, you're going to take the same approach. You're going to want to take a crisscross pattern when you're tightening these down. So just snug one a little bit and go back and forth. And we're just going to snug them up a little bit. The other thing that I like to do is look at the reveal on each side and try and get the reveal, the gap between the top ring and the bottom ring as consistent as we can between them. And then we are just going to go back and forth, finger tight, just snugging these up. And then we're going to take our inch-pound screwdriver and finish the job. And first we have to set this to, I'm going to set it right in between. So the specification is 15 to 20 pounds. I am going to split the difference on this and put it right in between. Okay, and there we go. Okay, and we are snug. That scope is not going anywhere. Okay, so as you can see, our scope is installed on our Marlin 1895GS. The next thing we are going to do is install these alumina lens covers by Leupold. I install these on all of my scopes. I just like that the glass for both the eyepiece and the objective lens are completely protected until I'm ready to use my scope. So let's look at how we install these. Okay, so this little guy is for the objective lens cover, and you can see that there's these little tabs and they're magnetized, and so they just pop open and there's a little spring in here. It holds that open. And all of the Leupold scopes are set up to receive these. And it's as simple as just screwing it on and snugging it up. Okay, and that looks pretty level. And then we're going to put on, the next piece is the eyepiece. This one has a little button that you push to open it up. So to install it, first we want to open it up. And then again, it is as simple as screwing it into place. All right, and there you have it. We've installed our scope, we've installed the lens covers, we've installed the quick release bases. So if I ever want to take this scope off and use it with iron sights, it's as simple as opening these up and the scope pops right off. I like to install my own scopes just because I feel like if I go to a big box store, I am going to take more time and care in doing it for myself and getting the eye relief perfect, getting the scope level, than somebody behind the counter of a big box store will do. Not to say that there aren't some guys that do an amazing job at that, but this is something that you can do yourself. You don't need a lot of specialized equipment. You need a gun vise. You need some quality gunsmith screwdrivers. you need a gunsmith inch-pound screwdriver to appropriately torque your scope to the right settings. And that's all you need. There you have it. Thanks for watching Hunt Tested. Check out our website, hunttested.com, for gear reviews and feature articles and more. And we also have a great forum where you can interact with other hunters who are interested in the same things that you are. Thanks for watching, everyone.